Hello and welcome to Steve and Dave's Real Questions from Fictional Listeners. In this, we're going to actually give you a chance to get to know us a little bit better. This is the first time that we've been together since starting our channel. And we wanted to take the opportunity to kind of have an informal chat. And
exactly. Well said. Yeah. So let's
just jump right into it.
Let's just get to it. All right. So question one.
Yeah, this comes from Dr. Bob Roberts. And Dr. Bob wants to know how we would rank the Beatles in terms of their solo careers.
Mm-hmm.
So
I can.
All right. How about let's start with number one.
Well, number one, I think, is was McCartney.
Paul McCartney.
I
in total agreement there. I'm afraid we're just going to probably go right through this and have no.
I think that's less likely, but McCartney is, man, it's almost unarguable, right? It's just so, yeah. So McCartney's one.
Number one, Paul McCartney.
So
number two. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's George Harrison.
Sorry.
Again, I think unarguable. I think based upon All Things Must Pass alone.
All right. What did he have there?
One of the seminal albums of the 70s. And but I think it's Harrison. I think that there's
My Sweet Lord, right? That was a big hit off of that. My Sweet Lord.
That was a big one. Yeah, that was a big one.
Do you know that is the most covered solo Beatles hit ever? My Sweet Lord.
That seems impossible.
It does seem impossible.
Wait a minute. More than Imagine?
More than Imagine. And number two is My Love.
What?
By McCartney.
More than Imagine.
More than Imagine. Yeah, I know. It's
well, I think it's Harrison. I think his output in the 70s, it's kind of up and down, but for me, yeah, he's number two.
Folks, we should point out that My Sweet Lord, which I think was his biggest
I think that's right.
Was a direct ripoff of He's So Fine.
Well,
by the Chiffons.
I think that's right. Chiffons, yeah. Yeah, but who among us, right?
This is, I think they settled out of court on that one, but
well, we're gonna penalize. I mean, come on. That's
John Lennon said, asked, well, was it maybe unintentional kind of a subconscious sort of thing that said, oh no.
He knew what he was doing.
He knew what he was doing.
But okay, so who's your number two?
Well, the Beatles they also befriended like all the girls group from the.
Well, they all toured. Yeah, they were on these. Sure, of course, that's right. So for you,
for John Lennon is number two. Yeah.
Okay.
Imagine.
Yeah. Okay.
Instant Karma. Power to the People. Working Man is something to be a lot of
yeah, I think that's I think most people would sort of lean in your direction. As you know, and as we'll find out here, I mean, it doesn't really connect with me.
Well, and this is on the strength of all his pre-Double Fantasy stuff. Double Fantasy didn't work for me on any level.
Yeah, there we go. That's all that. Well, all right. So yeah. So okay, Lennon 2. All right. So for me, 3 is I gotta think about this for a second. No, for me, 3 is clearly Ringo.
Well, we agree again.
Yeah. So I mean, Ringo. He starts off. He has the first 2 albums, right? Sentimental Journey and Buckup Blues, but it's that self-titled Ringo album, right, where he's working very closely with all the Beatles. This is the album with Photograph, which is penned by Harrison.
George Harrison did more for Ringo's career than probably even Ringo did.
Well, there's something, yeah, probably actually. But I think, but Ringo's, that's the 70s stuff. Goodnight Vienna, well, not No Song, but I mean, there's a lot
Oh, the
there.
No song is wonderful.
Oh God.
It's so fun.
I think it's fair to say that for me, Ringo sort of tailed off by the
Your
mid to late 70s.
16 is
That's a little problematic.
a little problematic, but it's a good song.
There's a lot. Oh my mind,
Yeah.
there's a lot there.
Yes, yeah, really.
So for me, I think it's Ringo, but it's a very short period, and he gets, as you know, a lot of help from his friends, as they say. So, but for you, it's who's 3?
Ringo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So. So at number 4 for me, it's Lennon.
Right.
I think that yeah, it's just
seems so incredible.
For me, I mean the double fantasy, the late 70s.
Well, all right, let me ask you this.
I find that pretty compelling, but the
is
early stuff
Imagine not the single best solo Beatle hit?
No, it's not. I don't even think it's Lennon's best Beatle.
What?
So,
really?
I don't think so.
What would you put over that one?
Well, I mean, I understand. I mean, it's even something like Number 9 Dream for me.
All right, yeah.
Yeah, it's I imagine it's just never. It just has never really kind of.
Wow.
It just hasn't worked for me. Didn't then, didn't now. And yeah, I did. Lennon solo stuff is just never. It always was sort of fingernails on a chalkboard for me.
Okay.
Really,
that was Yoko.
Well,
that was the singing in the background. That was.
Then there's Yoko.
It just sounds like fingerboard.
It just yeah.
On a chalkboard.
So yeah. Well, so for you,
Harrison.
Come on.
Well, there was Cracker Jack Palace, I guess.
Well, all right. I mean, you know, okay. Well, we could nitpick with all these guys.
Harrison did his best work as a Beatle. Period.
No, but okay. So Harrison.
I love a lot of the Harrison's Beatles songs.
I think
I really, a lot of the Beatles songs that I dislike the most are also Harrison songs, but that's not the point.
It's kind of remarkable that Ringo's not at the bottom for us.
Well, it is, because
I mean,
you know, he's an incredibly likable guy, personable.
Oh, absolutely,
was an important part of the Beatles' chemistry, right, and the balance of that. But I think also inarguably the least talented of the 4.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, and still
great drummer too.
I think great. I mean, yeah, distinctive drummer.
But as
I think everybody's surprised. Everybody was surprised with his solo success, including Ringo.
Sir George Martin even observed he wasn't even the best drummer in the Beatles.
That seemed harsh. That seemed harsh. I think that's demonstrably not the case.
I think that's also demonstrably not the
I
case.
think Sir George is having a bad day, or maybe had a spat. I think that's
Paul McCartney is a decent, competent drummer.
Of course, yeah, but he's no Ringo Starr.
Played on the Ballad of John and Yoko.
Yeah, there's a keeper.
Well, there's only the 2 of them played on that. So
yeah, well,
it's a good song.
It's fine,
folks. Steve thinks that really if you're going to concentrate and get the Beatles that are essential and necessary to everyone's collection, you can get it on one side of a CD.
I think that's a little overstated, but I do think that the Beatles highs are. I mean, they're a big group. I mean, but on the other hand, there's a lot of filler on all the albums, even the classic albums, and they were, you know, they compacted a career into 7-8 real working years, terms of their recording, intense recording, and you just can't do that. And there's just a lot of, and nobody told them no either, apparently.
Well, why would you?
Well, Maxwell Several Hammer, for example. Obli obli obadi oblada.
Those are fun songs.
Yeah. So but no one told them no. It's fine. The Beatles are, they're terrific.
And believe me, George Martin told them no about a lot of things. He had ideas. He said, this works, this does not work. He was an equal partner in making production decisions. Absolutely.
We don't believe that he was an equal partner. We don't believe he was an equal partner.
Great respect from
Rubber Soul. Oh well, anyway,
they came back to him after Let It Be and had him do Abbey Road. They wanted to finish up on a high note with him,
but nobody's suggesting he was the fifth Beatle nonsense. Fine, that's good, but he was. In the end, we know who called the shots, and it wasn't George Martin. The albums show it. It's clear that these guys were, basically running untethered. Well, I think
George Martin, and I think it was a mistake of his, but I suppose that he even probably found musical experimentation like Number 9 Revolution an interesting musical challenge.
Oh no,
I bet he did.
Oh no, come on. Oh no.
He appreciated John Cage and that sort of
Oh God. Okay, fine, but no.
All right.
Okay.
Well, we're through this, right?
Yeah. All right, we're through it. There we go. 1 through 4.
Rankings.
1 through 4.
So
So next.
Who's our next?
Emerald. So Emerald Wednesday.
Emerald Wednesday.
Emerald Wednesday writes question for Steve and Dave: the most overrated classic band. I think there's some contenders.
I'm a little bit intimidated by this.
Why is that?
Because overrated classic bands, by definition, have large loyal followings. Of course, we're sure to piss off by it.
Well, I think you could. This isn't my answer, but I think you could throw the Beatles into that. I think you could throw. Sure. They are. They're over discussed. I think on some level they're overappreciated. I think the Stones would fall into that category. There are a number of bands. All
right. Apart from the theoretical possibilities, where do you come down on this?
Probably the Kinks, actually.
Yeah, I don't think I agree with that. I think.
Well, no, I know you wouldn't agree with that, but I think it's the Kinks. I think people have tried hard for decades to sort of, elevate them. So clearly Ray Davies had some interesting ideas and some really fine songs. And Waterloo Sunset's magnificent, but the Kinks were not even. We everybody knows this, but nobody wants to say it.
I'm just going to say low budget, man.
I get it. Low budget. There's even in the 80s, at least 70s into the 80s, there was some stuff that was fun. But as a kind of
Lola and the Ape Man.
As people talk about the British invasion and the Kinks, I just think they're second team, third team. They're not. I think they're a little overrated.
Well, we're going to get less irate mail for that than.
Well, I don't think it's all that.
This one.
Here we go. All right. I know what's coming.
Most overrated band. And with all due respect, it's Led Zeppelin.
I can see that. I could. Yeah. So why?
I love their fourth album. I love individual other things, but they're just they've just been praised into the rock
for sure
pantheon, and have. It's not because they're not good. It's just because they are so.
I think they're right
adulated, and I think that's over. I think they're overrated.
Well, I think that I would agree. I think there's really something to that. And for me, the blues piece of it, the first album. There's just a lot you have to wait. I just don't really appreciate the blues stuff at all with Led Zeppelin. The hippie Zepp, the folk Zepp is, I think, magnificent. When Zepp would rock, it was really interesting. But there's just, yeah. But it's part of the
incredibly talented people, all four of them.
Sure, but
but it's just.
But it's and grown weary of the template of Zeppelin as the, sort of the quintessential rock band, and then not just the music, but then the lifestyle and the decadence.
Oh, well, that's a completely different story. I don't think they've been overrated in that. I think they're
properly
rated there. Yes.
So okay. So the Kinks and Led Zepp as the most overrated classic bands. Okay.
All right. Well,
what's the next?
The next question comes from Matt Hoople, and it says, "Well, what is your greatest guilty pleasure?"
Well, I don't. One of my great guilty pleasures is Streisand for me. Barbara Streisand is. I think she's extraordinary. It doesn't really matter the era, whether it's Broadway, whether it's even something from Star Is Born, Stony Ann. I even her duets. Oh, I think she's terrific. I mean, but it's not really going out on a limb. Barbara Streisand.
Because you don't feel like liking a diva is kind of embarrassing, or
I think it's kind of sort of Barbara Streisand sort of passe, right? A little, maybe.
Well, okay.
For me, there's just very little that she's ever done that I think it's all terrific. And I'm not as wild about her acting. But she's wonderful in films. Hello, Dolly. Come on. Okay. What's up, Doc? Oh, all right. But for me, it's a kind of guilty pleasure. Yeah. No, you stop while you're ahead. The barely a guilty pleasure. There are others, but
Yentl, for God's sake.
Oh God. No,
Papa, can you hear me?
That's not. Boy, she chews it up there. Wow. So, but that's not. What about you? So guilty pleasure.
Roxette, I think.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Kind of a.
They're very poppy.
Yeah.
They're kind of lightweight. On the other hand,
she was really good. The really powerful singer. I don't know.
She was a very powerful. She is a very powerful singer.
Yeah.
And just like everything they do, it's just ear candy. It's just like enjoyable.
It's well produced.
Easy to listen to. It's light
it's
and breezy. And I could put on a Roxette album, and occasionally do. So, but I don't like it. I don't.
That's a bold.
Yeah, I don't. It's not something I go around bragging about. I don't.
Well, what's your
go to the Rock Cafe and
no.
try to discuss Roxette with people.
So for you, Roxette, what's a song from Roxette that's what's your go-to song for Roxette?
What was the first hit? That was
I don't know.
She's got the looks.
Okay.
The looks, right? The look. It's still
okay.
Still right up there.
Yeah. But yes, sure.
There's all, sleeping in my car. It's all good.
Yeah,
it really is. It's
right. Okay. So guilty pleasures, Roxette and Barbara Streisand. Yeah. Okay. So what else? What's next? Who else are we hearing from? Oh, here's one. From Lorelei Sticks. Yeah, Lorelei Sticks. Yeah, it is an interesting name. Yeah. So Sticks, Sticks.
Well, of course.
And Lorelei asks,
what does Lorelei want to know?
Oh God. A classic song. Is this the right question? Do I have
a classic song that we just simply abhor? Classic hit?
Well, I mean, they're okay. I'll go first. I mean, Let It Be, Long and Winding Road.
You better stop while you're ahead, man. We're already going to.
I'd say Imagine. I don't much care for. Abhor's pretty strong. Almost anything from the Beach Boys.
What?
I really don't care for Beach Boy stuff at all. Maybe later stuff. Maybe. I mean, apart from
Yeah, Good Vibrations kind of sucked.
I don't really care much for Good Vibrations.
Oh, people, I had no idea.
Not really, no, but so
I had
okay.
no
I mean,
idea,
so there, I
so-
put some on the table. I mean, so what about you? Come on.
Well, well, all right. I guess most of Rod Stewart.
Yeah.
Maggie May was wonderful, and it's all downhill from there.
Oh, so Passion and Do You Think I'm Sexy?
Yeah.
Tonight's the Night.
Oh, get out.
Okay. Yeah. Rod Stewart, sort of late 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Tonight's the Night doesn't suck. Do You Think I'm Sexy is just embarrassing.
But okay, so those are classics. So, but you can't. But for example, no Beatles classic would come to mind. It's like, oh well, you know.
Oh, Beatles.
Yeah, I do have a kind of slavish devotion to the Beatles.
No, the Beatles, where they got experimental and where they tried to be more inclusive with George. George's entire, nearly his entire Indian influenced sitar.
Well, okay, that's hardly. I mean, that's hard, but
stuff.
Well,
But those weren't really classic hits either, right?
No.
And they never became classic hits.
But anything that was a hit for the Beatles, you're on board with.
It's okay with me. Yeah, basically.
Oh well, yeah, there we go. So I was going to say some stuff, later stuff from the Eagles. I don't care much for. Heartache Tonight. I don't.
No, Heartache Tonight is not great. I don't abhor it, but it's not great.
Abhor is pretty strong, but yeah, Let It Be and Long and Winding Road in particular. It's just, I don't know, not great. I mean, I understand that they're very meaningful for people and whatnot, but
Paul McCartney, in his defense, so be gentle with your comments. In his defense, Paul McCartney would even say the Let It Be that was released and became a hit, The Long and Winding Road, was overproduced. McCartney was not at all pleased with the treatment by Phil Spector.
Right, but that's not really the problem. The problem is that they're both just too long and just cloying. And
well, the thing that makes them cloying is the Phil Spector wall of sound.
Okay, I mean, it didn't help, but
violins and the whole,
yeah, right. I don't much care for that either, but I mean, there's so much there.
I like them even with the Phil Spector thing, so that's because I'm slavishly devoted to them.
Well, I think that's the word, slavish. I've heard the Let It Be naked, and I think I probably do prefer that, but there's a place for the Spectre stuff, but those particular songs are tremendous. So that was from Lorelei. Oh, Mandy Manilow asks, what does Mandy Manilow ask?
Well, let me take a look.
Oh yeah, there we go.
Oh, apparently she's a Bee Gees fan. She wants to know what we think the top 5 songs from the Bee Gees are.
Yeah, so so we're both big Bee Gees fans.
Yeah, we are.
And I think it's fair to say that the Bee Gees, I mean, they just blazed a very unique trail.
Oh,
and just really, and Barry Gibb in particular is one of the great songwriters of the past half century.
And producers.
Yeah, it's
as well.
And there's something about the Bee Gees. There's something about honestly something about the courage of the Bee Gees that they have this kind of lull, and then they pick it up with the disco, and it just sort of threw themselves into. I don't know. I really admire them, and so for me, would be songs like Massachusetts.
No,
Oh, there we go. Thank you.
I like Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. I think I started to joke from their earlier era. I think from the from Main Course, Nights on Broadway. Probably so. Nights on Broadway for me. I would say from Saturday Night Fever. Night Fever is terrific, and a little bit later hit Tragedy for me. I mean, those would be probably amongst my top 5.
Well, I should probably start off by saying I don't think I can answer this question. I think
What?
yeah, I think
Why can't you answer the question?
I think there are too many good,
Stop.
too many excellent, too many.
There.
Yes.
Okay.
Just really amazing, really amazing.
So you
Bee Gees
can't come up
songs.
with 5 Bee Gees songs.
I can come up with 5, but they're.
Well, if you must come up with
there's
7.
a top 10, a top 15 maybe, but
Okay, so all right. Well,
maybe Nights on Broadway would.
Okay,
I
there's
would
some
not. I
common
would
ground
not
there.
include. Would not include Manhattan. Would not Massachusetts. Would not include. I started a joke. They're good songs, but they're not.
okay,
they're
that's
not
fine.
among.
All right.
You know.
But Nights on Broadway, yeah, the Great Stalker.
But I think if we're talking main course, I would go with Fanny.
It's fine song.
Probably.
Mhm. Wouldn't disagree.
Lonely Days.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, sure.
Maybe Words. To Love Somebody.
Well, you sound like this is sort of like the Bee Gees' greatest hits, Bee Gees Gold.
Well, that's.
But yeah, I mean, not that there's anything wrong with it. So that early era. So what about for you? So,
Message to You. God get a message to you.
so it's so let's
New
think.
York Minds. See, this is.
That is.
I can't.
I think that's side 1. But okay, so for you,
And a couple of the disco things as well.
So-
maybe.
so what are the disco things? So which of the disco songs would you put on your? I mean, so it's your top 8 or whatever. So the discos, mostly of its point leans sort of to earlier Bee Gees. I think people are familiar with that kind of that era.
I think I would agree with Tragedy, for instance.
See, there you go. So
And seriously, from Saturday Night Fever,
Mhm.
the very good stuff that other people sang would be more my road.
Such as
From Yvonne
from Von Elliman,
Ellen.
Can't Have You.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I really like that.
I like that too. The Bee Gees version of that is really good, but her, yes. Okay, yeah.
And late Bee Gees
I
is
know,
also
this
really
is
really
this
good
is your
stuff.
thing, late Bee Gees.
I just can't remember any of the songs. The album.
Yeah, this is
where I came in, right?
Yeah.
And almost that entire album is just really good.
Well, right. I believe that, and there's a certain craftsmanship with when the brothers when they were all engaged. That was really, that was really extraordinary. They knew what they were doing.
So here we have a real answer with 5 songs, and here a non-answer, but loving the Bee Gees.
Yeah,
Definitely.
absolutely. No question. That's right.
So
do we have any more questions? Or any more?
we do have one more question.
Oh goodness, what is that?
And this is from another doctor, Dr. Feelgood.
Okay.
Apparently
What does Dr. Feelgood want to know?
I think Dr. Feelgood is an MD, and I'm guessing Dr. Bob Roberts is a PhD. I'm just guessing.
This is my guess too. Yeah.
The top female front person.
Yeah. Yep.
There's some
interesting.
definitely.
Yeah. This is an interesting question.
Questions.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Obviously, rock music has long been a kind of male bastion. And there were obviously good, there were obviously many women singers,
Great women singers.
great women singers.
But I think we're talking about somebody who's fronting a band, right?
Yeah.
Sounds
And
like that's what
so,
they're looking
well,
for.
for me, I think about this a little bit, and it's somebody like Grace Slick, who was, fronted the Airplane, and for a short time fronted Starship. I know that there is some debate about this, right? Because Paul Kattner and Marty Bellin, they put this thing together. And Slick came in a little bit later after the first album. She joined him on the second album. I think, though, for all intents and purposes, in terms of the stage presence, it was Grace Slick, and she's the voice of the Airplane and the early Starship.
Well,
I think she's terrific. I think she's completely underrated.
I think Grace Slick, the surrealistic pillow, Grace Slick, cannot be beaten. It has never been topped.
It's extraordinary. Yeah. I think
the Starship Grace Slick is not quite on the same.
Fair enough. I think that's probably right. I do think that early Starship, the first two albums in particular, when Starship had the Papa John Creech on violin, I thought they really were hitting all cylinders there. I thought it was just really terrific. But for me, Grace Slick is, I think about a woman front person. Grace Slick.
I think somebody that you have to, it has to be in the running, is Stevie Nicks.
Well, agreed. I've
never seen her in concert. You have a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
But I have seen concert films.
Sure.
And
she
owns
the stage, yeah.
And can really, really, really get going. It's spontaneously ripping off on her own songs, and I've been really amazed at some of the
she's an extraordinary performer. I think she's really an extraordinary live performer. That band's complicated for lots of reasons that we all know, but in terms of, I think that's fair to say that think of her as a kind of front person.
And yes, and the other problem is that there are like 3 front people in that band, so that makes it a bit difficult.
Classic here, for sure. Okay, so Stevie Nicks. Anyone else come to mind?
I think for me, in the end, Deborah Harry.
So that's kind of right, and so that's an interesting
Blondie,
choice. She.
I'm just a huge Blondie fan. That's it. Like basically everything they did. Maybe
a little underappreciated, if
possibly.
Blondie. Yeah. It's and Harriet was. She was very charismatic, beautiful, really, I think, fine voice too. And she was the right person for that band.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
When Blondie was or late 70s Blondie is terrific.
She's also a master of the snark.
She is right. She's right. She's
so interviews are always interesting.
Well, yeah. Well, I think there's some of that with Grace Slick too, but it's
yes, definitely. Yeah.
But that's a great question. It's a great question, and one.
Thanks, Dr. Feelgood.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's this has been good.
Yeah,
this has been good. And so, what else do we have to tell our loyal listeners?
Well, listen, we'll do something like this again when the opportunity presents itself. But we thought we didn't do an introduction back in the day, and so we just thought we'd give you a chance to get to know us a little bit better. And
that's right.
I found it very very illuminating and fun to do.
Indeed. So until next time, we'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.